Welcome to Unboxed on Purpose, where authentic purpose comes to light. Breaking limits on this journey, letting dreams flutter freely into flight. Flutter into freedom, flutter freely in God's light.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever it is that you are. I greet you with Jesus' joy, for it is in Him that I live, breathe, move, and I have my very being. And I'm so happy that you decided to tap into Unboxed on Purpose today. We are a podcast created for Favored by the Father Ministries. I am Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon, your host. Our featured guests share how they stepped out of dark places in life, or they made simple pivots toward purpose to become unboxed. We discuss whatever experiences we choose to that lead to the fulfillment of God-gifted purpose. And I do pray every week that each episode will help our audience to access their authentic destiny. And sharing with us today is Dr. Ronald Barnes. Dr. Barnes is from Chicago, Illinois. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very good, Dr. Brehon, and I want to thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor, and I've got something to say that I'm
I'm
very happy to share with you.
I'm sure you do. And we're going to give a little bit more of an introduction about you, and then we'll jump on in after another couple of sentences, okay?
Okay, very good.
Dr. Ronald Barnes is an author, and he writes about society phenomena from a psychology perspective. Dr. Ron is also director of the Metropolitan Empowerment and Economic Organization, which is an educational organization. He's going to discuss with us, you see the title, The Evolution of His Epiphany. With a master's degree in religious studies, he is a strong believer that a religious influence is one solution to the chaos in our world. Hello again, Ron Barnes, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Brehon, and that pretty much sums up wonderful introduction into um, uh, an aspect of my thinking.
All
So
right
appreciate
now.
that.
So I want you to tell our audience, I always ask folks this so that our audience can see how we
Mm-hmm.
connected and everything. How in the world did we meet? How do we know each other?
Okay, there was a gentleman who was my publisher, Mr. Robert Williams, who's the publisher of one of my books, 4 volumes of my book, and he suggested that I meet you. He talked highly of you, and he said, "Look, if you got a good book here, you got something saying, you really need to meet Dr. Barbara Brehon." And he gave me a lot of positive background on you, and it was through that process that we got in touch and talked, and I'm really honored that we did and happy. And but it was through my publisher, and I do understand that you are an author as well, so I guess that connection is both of us as mutual authors, we kind of understand the value of being able to talk to people through media. So that's how I think we met. I do believe, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I like at the very beginning to give credit where credit is due because several people do refer others to me. And so we're grateful to Robert Williams of
sure.
Quippy Quill for doing
Perfect
that. I
quill.
have one book with Quippy Quill, and Robert has been very good about giving me opportunities to do book signings and the like all over the place. So I appreciate him for doing that
Sure.
as a
Yeah.
distributor for me. So let's
Sure.
just jump on into some of these passions and other things about Ron. And so
Okay.
go all the way back to your childhood as a boy or as a teen and tell us about your passion in life. What was that
Uh-huh.
like? Let us get to know you a little
Well,
bit.
I had a wonderful family. Look at my mother and father and parents and how I was raised. And one of the things that I got into as a young boy is sports. My friends and I would see my friends almost every day, and we would play basketball from sun up to sundown.
Ah,
We would be gone. I'd get on my bicycle and I would ride. My parents didn't know where I was
oh my.
during the daytime because we'd be playing basketball until the sun went down. And the very fact that we had that kind of freedom growing up, and we had the kind of parents that gave us that freedom. We had the comfort of being loved and cared about as kids. Um, that really set a foundation in my life that I have that I came to value more as I got older and grew into life and understood the real value of being able to have freedom as a kid, and not just freedom, but have it being loved and to create a passion
Yes.
and to do some things. I think a passion is something that we have to look at what we do. A
So
lot of
as
people.
we look at what you do now, without telling us about that yet, as you
Mhm.
look at that, is there something in your childhood or teen years that had that passion in it besides sports?
Um, well, I tell you, every every day I had my family. We had dinner at the dinner table. We had dinner. I spent time with my family, and the value of the security of
Mm-hmm.
being cared about is something we might take for granted or might not even realize when we're younger. We might not realize the value of having the security of caregivers and parents that really care about their children.
So you've
And
carried that into your life even
yes,
today to spend that
even today,
time.
that gives me my foundation of security is carries through almost everything I do. That's why in looking at the early development process in kids, I see how important it is for parents. Even if you got parents that have kids unexpected and that have that
Mhm.
responsibility, the value of just, hey, understanding your responsibility to give those kids a love and a security, because that's something that will create the rest of their life.
Absolutely. So, as
Yeah.
we continue this wonderful conversation, let's talk about something that is bringing you joy or teaching you something in this current season of your life.
Uh-huh.
We talked about the family and how that's important in spending time with each other and how comfortable and secure you were as a child,
Hmm.
and all that has spewed into who you are, who you have become, even in your own lifestyle. So let's talk
Hmm.
about that in the sense of joy,
That
because
that
we're talking about
yeah.
passion. What's the current joy bringing you
You,
joy
you, you
in
know
your current
yeah.
season?
That's a very interesting question, and I'm going to answer that question starting out with the foundation of how I reached that place. I was driving down Chicago, the busy street in Chicago, Michigan Avenue, the Gold Coast, with my dad. My dad said, "Ronnie, you see that guy over there?" I said, "Yeah, Daddy, he's a bum. He's going through the garbage." My dad said, "That's right. That man can go through the garbage, get everything he needs out of the garbage can, and do nothing for anybody but himself. He very well may live longer than you and I. And anybody that doesn't do anything for anybody but themselves is no better than a bum." And what that did, that opened my mind up to understanding the real value in a thank you. Because when you do something for someone else and they say thank you, well, that means that you can. There's a lot of there's a lot of ego and joy and happiness and self value, self appreciation in being able to do something for other people. And my dad opened that door for me to find the joy in that, which created my authorship. It had me writing books. It had me look at the society and write about the phenomena of society, but also it helped me to look at myself.
Wow.
And yeah, and it helped me to understand who I wanted to be as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Did I want to be the greedy human being that chased the money all the time? Now, I'm not devaluing money, but
Right.
I'm saying that there's more to life than being selfish. And
I go
and,
ahead.
and and I think what we have to do, we have to figure out how to get beyond ourselves to include other people into the equation of of happiness. Being, I mean, we got to do more for people than just ourselves,
We
and
gotta
that's what.
stay right
Yeah,
there. We're gonna
yeah,
stay right there with this conversation
uh-huh.
because somewhere in your journey, you've spoken about your father, your family life, and all, and that's wonderful. Who else besides your dad do you think in your early journey really saw you, understood you, spoke into your life, a very big influence other than your father?
Okay, I had a childhood friend. His name is Hoyland Ricks. And Hoyland and I, we went to grammar school together. We went to high school together, and we went to college together. Um, we were both athletes. Neither one of us really studied and were good students in high school and college because we were athletes. But I'll tell you something that Hoy did that really I admire this in him more than I can say. Hoyland's godmother was named Miss Farley. She was on one of the physics physicists on the Manhattan Project. She
Okay.
was also one of the people that was against dropping the bomb because she knew the destruction it would do.
Mm-hmm.
Hoyland didn't know what he was going to do out of college, and she said, "Hoyland, go to medical school." But before Hoyland could go to medical school, he had to go back and learn science because he didn't study in college. He had no background for going to medical school. This Hoyland went back to school, studied science, got good grades in science, and became a medical doctor. And I looked at Hoyland and I said to myself, wow, how much time have we wasted in
Mm.
our life? I mean, it had nothing to do with being an athlete. We could have been an athlete and still been a learner. But how much time did we waste by not learning? And Hoyt, looking at what he did, having to go back when he would not have had to go back if he had learned. And like I went back too. And I look at these young kids and it helps me to understand the real value of getting it the first time and
I
learning.
appreciate that. Yes,
Yeah. And so I have to say that Hoyland was my buddy. He was a real big influence and set an example for me to get my life together and to stop.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So I would say,
we want this
mhm,
show to be intergenerational. We don't know
sure.
who's looking or listening and who is going to share it with somebody else because of what we're talking about. And
Uh-huh.
because of what you're saying right there, I have a mind to share on my personal side
Sure.
that my nephew, my brother's son, his name is Christopher Philip Beslow Fields.
Mm-hmm.
He graduated high school with honors. He
Hmm.
was an all-star sportsman in more than one sport, all the way
Uh-huh.
through all of his school, all the way through high school. Was on the team, football team at his college.
Uh-huh.
But I say all that to say that he went to college on an athletic scholarship. No, it was
Mm-hmm.
an academic scholarship.
Mm.
So you can do,
You can do
students
both.
who are
Yeah.
listening right now, you can
Mm-hmm.
be a smart jock.
That's right.
Right now, he is raising a very lovely, very loving family. He has wife that's beautiful. He has two children that are wonderful, that are now in both in high school themselves. Doing things the way that you do them because of the
Mm-hmm.
choices that you make. So
That's
there's
right.
one way to do it. There's another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's another way to do it, but you be your authentic self.
That's right.
That's my lesson from what you're saying, because we're talking about the evolution of your epiphany.
That's
You don't
right.
have to wait until you're older. You can do the
Mm-hmm.
things right now because you know what's in you, what passions are in you to do what it is that God has gifted you to do. And so I'm going to get off on my little soapbox right now. And I think my nephew is going to be shocked when I have to share with him that I talked about him today. But I'll give him the link so that he can see it for
Yeah.
himself. Share your journey on Unboxed on Purpose. We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website, favoredbythefather.com. Click Contact Us, and we'll schedule a time to talk. This podcast was created with you in mind, your voice, your victory, your testimony. To be considered, leave your name, email address, the subject line Unboxed, and a brief note about what you'd like to say to be on the show. Together, let's advance God's purpose and help others become unboxed and flutter freely in the Lord. So, but today's title is The Evolution of My Epiphany. And I want to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
the audience knows, because I want to reach an intergenerational group. There may be someone who doesn't know that an epiphany is simply a sudden moment and a dramatic moment where it's like, aha, it's a
Mm-hmm.
realization of an insight that
Yes.
suddenly you understand. And so you're saying the evolution
Mm-hmm.
of your epiphany moment. Would you talk to us about your
Yeah.
epiphany?
I would also say an awakening, a rebirth, if you want to say,
Absolutely.
or or a discovery of something about yourself that you did not know was there. That when that door opened up, it was just like a rush wave going through it, and you say, "Aha, this is who I am and who I want to be." And how that happened is that. Um, I was athlete, race secure, and living in the society we live in. One of the dominant areas of thought and behavior we have is to make money. Okay, and so my original motivation was to make money. So I had a company where I made products that I sold to Walmart. Uh, Walgreens and the bigger stores, and I made money. But I was not happy doing that because it isolated me from the outside world. My focus was pretty much just on making money, and I really wasn't raised that way. And it was just an empty feeling, and then you become slaves to the uh, uh, suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold my business and I went back to school.
Okay.
And when I went back to school, and then and the reason I was kind of during the time that I wasn't playing sports anymore, and just I was just fumbling around life trying to find it, because when you play sports and I played in Europe, I played, I was all American, I was all conference, and that rah rah rah, Cisco and Bob. Barnes, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. Well, that gets addicted. And it creates a big hole in you when you are not doing that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand how professional athletes like go off when they're not playing anymore big time. I was just in college. So I fumbled around And then going into business, that really wasn't me. But then what happened is that when I sold my business, I went back to school. I went back to school, uh, got a master's degree in religious studies, and I was just doing it because education was my concept of what you need to do to be successful or be somebody. And I went back to school, and then after I finished my master's degree at the University of Chicago, I went on to do PhD study in learning psychology, and now I'm doing another PhD in community psychology. And what happened doing that? I found out that the problem I had before is that I just did not do the work. Do the work. It's easy. Anybody can do the work. And when I did the work, I did the reading, I did the writing, I expressed my opinion, and it fulfilled that gaping hole in me. It
Yes.
filled
Yes.
that spot in my life that was missing when I started learning, and then I started getting good grades too. Oh, that was the real icing on the cake. And when I was inducted into the International Psychi, which is the International Psychology Honor Society, and then I was inducted into the NSLS, which is the National Success and Leadership Society. Then I began to have a value for myself that was not contingent on outside factors. Playing basketball, making money. Well, those are things that can be taken away, that people cannot, that you don't have control over. But when you learn and when you have a knowledge and when you get positive reinforcement for your knowledge, well, that's something that you have. You own that. That cannot be taken away. Maybe Alzheimer's might get rid of it a little bit, but that's later on. But when you learn and when you internalize the learning, then that's something that you own that cannot be taken away. And what else I learned in that process? I learned that if I can do it, anybody can. Okay, I'm saying I learned that every kid on this earth, every person on this earth has the ability to learn.
That's right.
And along with that learning, will open up other doors in your life that you may not have known were even there, but it will give you a direction that will be invaluable to your life.
Absolutely. And while we're
Yeah.
speaking this way, I want to interject as a educator,
Uh-huh.
professional educator here, that people don't learn the same way. So
That's
I
true.
can say ditto to everybody can learn, just with a caveat understanding
Hmm.
for the audience that everybody doesn't learn the same way. That
That's
doesn't mean
true.
they can't learn. People
Yes.
may have this or that difficulty. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean they can't learn something.
That's true.
They can't learn
Very
it the
true.
way you learn it, but it's possible to be fulfilled. And there we go back to the notion of purpose. There we go back to the notion of having an authentic identity.
Uh-huh.
God did not make a mistake when he
True.
created any of us.
Very
And
true.
so the way that we learn and what we go through in life to make us have our epiphany moments where
Yes.
we get that aha, I know what I'm supposed to
Hmm.
be doing. Let me stop, as you said, fumbling around and go ahead and pursue my purpose.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I'm not stuck anymore. I'm unboxed on
But
purpose. Let's
listen.
look at it in terms of the actual epiphanies in your life, those aha moments, right? What experience opened your eyes to the social patterns that that you now see in others? Let's pull it
Okay.
together.
Well, I'm gonna share the one experience that it had the most profound and significant impact on my life that really caused me to look beyond the clutter and get rid of the blockage and the clutter in my life and to really understand and put things into perspective. For me, uh, I saw my father die.
Wow.
when my father died, I was in the me and my mother. We spent the 30 days in the hospital with him, and that night he started moving, coughing funny. Called the nurse, and I looked at him, and I saw him transition from this
Wow.
world, and my hand was on his body, and I felt his body turn cold.
Mm-hmm.
Golly, Moses, I can't not tell you the impact that it had on my life, because it was at that time that I said to myself, well, you either believe in God or you don't. Now, and I'll tell you why. Because if you don't believe in God, then you're not going to be able to deal with this. But if you do, then maybe you'll see him again one day. But the point about that is that when it comes to belief, and especially belief in God and religion, most of us do that because that's what other people think we should do. We believe we go to church because our parents led us there. But how does that influence other people give us? How does that turn into something we internalize ourselves? That we believe ourselves, regardless of what other people think, regardless of what other people say. And it was at that point in time that my belief in God became my belief in God, and not somebody else's, and not believing what someone else wants me to believe. And when that happened to me, then uh, everything else in my life became sort of easy. I was able to deal with challenges and problems without a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I was able not to worry about stuff that didn't go my way, that I didn't want to happen. I was able to uh, create ways to deal with things that don't that I don't like. And I didn't look at it as I don't get depressed. I don't worry. I don't get angry. And if it's something that I really can't deal with it, I don't.
Right.
Everything's not meant for us to be, but we do need to nurture and care for and give time to those things that are for us to be. So I would say that that was something in my life that happened that I consider the worst. Now this is a real dichotomy. I consider that the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, and at the
Yeah.
same time, the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Because the worst thing was that my dad left me. Whoa! But the best thing is that it opened my eyes up to accept the inevitable. And one of the problems that we all have in life is we cannot deal with things we cannot control. We
Wow.
think we can control everything, but there are things that we cannot control in our life. And what are we going to do with what we can? How are we going to deal with that which we cannot control?
That's a very good question.
And and
So
and and what you cannot control, you still have to deal with it. And it helped me to understand and to create a a perspective and a way of dealing with things that are just beyond my control. And and it solidified my faith.
it's wonderful the way
Yeah,
you are expressing that because it's real. It
it's
took me
real. Yeah.
back to that moment where I literally felt my mother's body turn
Mhm.
cold. It's,
Yeah.
to go through the details of that, I don't need to, but I'm
Right.
resonating with you in a very specific way.
That's a trip.
Parenting
That's a
child,
trip, isn't it?
how
That's
to,
a real trip, isn't it?
and,
That's something. Yeah.
to escort her through that and
Hmm.
share that moment is very, very sacred. And it is very um, important and very, very
Hmm.
impactful. And so, as we talk about these things, let's consider our families. Let's consider people that we care about, even generations that are
Yeah.
yet unborn. Let's
Hmm.
project into the future to people who haven't even been thought of yet. Our children that maybe three or
Hmm.
four generations removed from now who aren't even born yet.
Yes.
What advice or wisdom will you drop on them when they pick up this archaic thing called a podcast and
Wonderful,
see what can I do? What can they do to
wonderful, wonderful.
prevent being stuck or feeling stuck in a box in the first place?
I don't believe how you can just lead me along the path of my reflection. It's uncanny, but okay. My grandson got shot.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was a good student. He was coming out of swimming practice with another friend of his, and he got stuck up. They wanted to take his computer, and he just hit the guy in the jaw, turned back, and started running, and got shot in the back. Thank God he's still alive, but it re reconstructed his whole thinking process. But what that told me, it told me that we have a responsibility, not just that these problems impact good kids too. It helped me to understand that we have a responsibility to address the condition of everybody in our society. We have a responsibility to bring up those that are downtrodden, those that are not as fortunate, because if we don't, those people can come back to do damage to other of those. So we cannot count out anybody or disrespect anybody in society. People that need help, we need to give it to them, because if they don't see a hand up, then they are going to. If you got someone that's hungry and is needy, they're going to survive. They're going to get it one way or another. Now he should have just given them the computer. Wouldn't have been, he could have always got another computer. But that told me that I have a responsibility to help those that are that need help. You know, my baby girl, I got my kids are cool. I got three kids. One of my kids is a doctor. My baby girl's a doctor. My other two kids have master's degrees. And so for me to say that, oh shoot, my kids are cool, they're okay, that's not true, because they can be victims too. So if we're going to keep our kids from being victims in the future, then what we have to do is we have to extend opportunities to as many people as we can. We have to reach back into the downtrodden. That's what Jesus did. Jesus didn't. What he say about the rich people and the good people? He said it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. So I guess the point is that we can't discriminate or isolate uh, the people that we uh, help support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, as we reflect on what you've talked about in this episode, we reflect on your title, The Evolution of Your Epiphany, and we've very clearly heard you speak on those things. What's next on the horizon for you? You are an author, you do the things that you do, speaking with people of all ages, helping them out as best you know
Mhm.
how. What's next on the horizon for you, and how can listeners connect with you if they choose to do so from this
Okay.
podcast?
Well, uh, what I am doing, I had a meeting yesterday with a Reverend Julian Bond. Now, not the Julian Bond, but that's his name, Reverend Bond. Reverend Bond is the chaplain here at the University of Chicago Hospital, and also he has a church. I'm also a member of Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Church here in Chicago, Illinois, pastored by Reverend Daryl Person. And what we're doing, we are establishing a program to teach kids STEM subjects. I did research in the hospital, and while I was researching in the hospital, branching out into the community, I discovered that um, Black people want Black doctors, Hispanic people want Hispanic doctors, Asian people want Asian doctors. People want doctors that they can relate to, and understanding that and looking at yeah, Black people are like 15% of the population, and 5% of the doctors. But I can't really blame the hospital because a lot of Black kids just don't go into those sciences. So what we are doing, establishing through the churches, is we're setting up STEM learning to teach kids science, to teach kids not to grade them, but to be comfortable with sciences, so that when they take it in their formal environments, they're able to um, understand it,
I
to be
think that you
comfortable
have
with it.
shared something, a great idea that people will walk away with and say, wow, that's something that I should be doing. I
Yeah,
can volunteer at my whatever and
church.
teach at
Hmm.
my, I'm saying clearly whatever, because someone else may have another organization in their
Hmm.
community in which they live,
Yes.
and to make this portable to whoever the listener might be. It
Hmm.
may be church, but it may be another community organization that is very,
Hmm.
very vibrant, and they haven't even considered it, but they have the skills where they could do that. I thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that, and I
Um,
thank you for sharing of yourself.
you don't know. I want to thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to express some of these things that help to crystallize my perspective even more.
How
Thank
can
you.
listeners get in touch with you?
Okay. Well, I'm in Chicago, Illinois. Um, I am. Uh,
We want to flash some information across the
yeah, yeah.
screen.
You can. My email is ron.barnes7@yahoo.com. Simple as that. You can get in touch with me there. If you Google Ronald Barnes, University of Chicago, oh, a bunch of stuff will come up on me. So Ronald Barnes, University of Chicago. You'll get information on me. And if you want to email me at ron.barnes7@yahoo.com.
I'm thanking Ronald Barnes for spending some time on the Unboxed on Purpose stage, because you have encouraged us to step outside of our boxes and do the things in our society that we need to do and
Sure.
evolve through our own aha moments, because there's always something that you can do that's a little different for you, even though there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
And we do post our episodes every Thursday for about 30 minutes every time we do the recording. We post them on the Favored by the Father Ministries YouTube channel, and then we upload them to the Facebook, LinkedIn, and most other podcast platforms. As we evolve, we are like little butterflies coming out of a box, a dark box when you look at our logo, filling ourselves with the Holy Spirit and fluttering freely in Him, allowing the Lord to lead us and lift us to lofty, immeasurable levels in the Lord. We want you to fulfill, I'm tongue-tied. We want you to fulfill your purpose. We want you to be free to do the things that you do in the Lord, and we want you to remain favored by the Father. Thank you for tuning in.
You were made with purpose, an authentic purpose you can claim. Keep unboxing every blessing. Let your spirit flutter freely in Jesus' name. Until next time, keep flying boldly. Keep living fully, heart open wide. This is Unboxed on Purpose, where your story comes alive.
Reverend Dr. Barbara A.F. Brehon, visionary servant leader, speaker, teacher, mentor, and best-selling author. Dr. Brehon's books are written to inspire, equip, and encourage believers on the journey of faith. The Disciple's Journey to Christ-Likeness Trilogy, Reach Me with Smiles, a handbook for developing disciple makers, Beyond Discipleship to Relationship, Developing Intimacy with the Lord, Blooming for Christ, Growing Godly Intimacy, Reverend B. Beast's Morning Messages Devotional Series, Points to Ponder, Devotional Readings and Journaling, Volumes 1 and 2, the Perspective Series, Perspectives, What Singles Really Want for Ministry and Life, and 100 Unboxed Perspectives, Reminiscences that Inspire. Her anthology contributions include An Abraham Move in Beyond Adversity, 2 chapters in From Cocoon to Soar, Emerging from Darkness, and The Power of Self-Discovery. All titles are available now on Amazon. And as always, grow in grace, God's special favor, and remain favored by the Father.